Yep, Jeff, you were the first one here. Congratulations, you made it. Uh, Jeff McCausland, I'll say McCausland. Yeah. And hello to Newfoundland, Canada. You made it. Randy Robbins, good evening. Doing pretty good. It's been a good couple of days. It just got warm again. Other than that, we're okay. Craig, hello there. I hope you're doing well. I got a little hot today, to be honest, and I was planning on spending a little bit of time in the woods next week. And so me and Bear met up this morning early, and I stayed in the heat with him up till about right at 1 o'clock. And 5 hours in the heat, I was getting a little too hot, so I had to bow out, come home, take a shower, cool off, and but other than that, I'm doing really good. Washington, North Carolina, awesome. Hello, brother Justin Coon. Glad you made it. Well, Gear Boy, glad you've been looking forward to it. I've been looking forward to it. Jeff Conley, yeah, I'm having a better evening after I got a good shower and cool my core temperature down a little bit. We're doing really good. Jared, how you doing? We're going with the theory about why I'm having trouble regulating my body temperature. If y'all are familiar with ghost pain, and this is where someone has had a limb crushed or whatever, and they're going to amputate it. Well, in the past, they would always just knock you out and amputate it, but they have since learned, especially with all the war, Gulf War and everything, we had a lot of chance to practice this. That's not the way to do it. The best thing to do is actually numb it and completely numb it with the patient awake until they don't feel any pain whatsoever in that limb for at least a couple of hours. Then you sedate them and amputate. If you don't, that ghost pain is actually those nerves firing. Okay. And so even though the leg is gone, those nerves will continue to fire because they never got the command to stop. Even though it's 30 years ago when you lost your leg, that will keep going. That pain will keep going because the body's kind of on a loop. It doesn't get the command. So they've learned now to completely neutralize it. And so the doctor that was from the Nashville that was looking at my case, he thinks that since it was when I had my stroke in November, it was a cool morning. I was wearing short sleeves. I had rode to where I was at with the windows down. I was intentionally pretty cool at the time. In fact, I was so cool that when me and Bear got in there, I ordered coffee, which I rarely drink coffee, you know, and because I was trying to warm up a little bit. And it was immediately after that when I had the stroke. They think my thermostat's kind of stuck to heater because I'm generating a lot of body heat to the point that I'm waking up. And they thought it was night sweats. Well, the heart monitor says it's not night sweats. So why not am I waking up just burning up and you feel the bed and it's hot? I'm generating body heat. And so that would explain why I'm having trouble dealing with summer heat and why I didn't feel cold at all this last winter. So we're going to see how it works out. I'll update y'all more once we know more, but maybe it'll fix itself, hopefully. Okay. Terry, good evening. 2020, good evening. Kevin, oh yeah, I hear you. It's hot and dry up there as well. Common Sense Karen, hello. Marvin, hello to West Virginia. Yeah, we got a little thunder around us right now, but no real rain. It's just a little bit of mist here and there, but we are bone dry down here. And if we don't get some rain pretty soon, we're gonna have fire hazards really bad. In fact, there's places that they've already said just no fires whatsoever because we're such a powder keg down here. And we don't have that many big wildfires down here because we are so humid and everything. It's easy to dampen it down and hurt. Where that, like you say, out on the West Coast, they're so bone dry, one spark, yonder it goes. So we haven't had rain here in well over a month of anything to count. Oh, thanks, Justin. Ah, they lifted it up there, up in Newfoundland. I hear you. Well, Mitchell, I'm glad you're catching up, and thanks for dropping in tonight. I hope things go well in San Diego for you. Gray Wolf. Yeah, playing Tetris with the changing of the seasons, snowmobile trailers. I hit you. Hear you, but at least you got cool temps up there. We're still in the 90s down here. So, Graham, Blackie, have you done a video about an Open L number 8? I did a couple of Open L knife videos quite a few years ago, and I made a couple of modifications. But I have showed my Open L number 8 in several videos as the backup blade I often carry in my haversack as a little Open L in a sheath. So I need to do that. I need to get back to Open L. Open L is a really good pocket knife. William says y'all had a bad downpour on Missouri. I hear you. Tad, I'm glad you got the Red Hawk. Briar smoke. Yeah, I hope that y'all get some rain out there. Not too much. Y'all are not really set up for really heavy downpours there in South California and all. Yeah, Jared, I did a video talking about it in the last year because I got that Wazoo belt at my gathering in the spring. So it's got to be between that. And I do remember talking about that, about maybe coming up with a haversack strap that would have little pockets on it like that and do the same idea, or a belt you could take on and off where it's a belt and you could transfer it down to becoming the main bag would go down and become a hip bag, a thigh bag. And then you could also hook it to it and make a shoulder strap out of it. I reached out to the Wazoo and them and said, hey, y'all want to work together? Never heard anything back. But you never know. Down the line, something might happen. Christopher Evans, hello there. Gray Wolf, Blackie, the new 51 settled down and grouping. Well, it is doing really, really well. And I will be getting around to doing videos with it in the near future. Right now, I'm working through the Percussion Revolver series of them great big videos. I hope I ain't boring you guys with them great big videos. They're deep dives, and I could take a lot of them videos and chop them up into 10 small pieces. But I wanted to do a definitive 51 Navy, 1860 Army, 58 Remington, and stuff like that as something to build upon when I was doing those videos. Andy Knight, hello to South Georgia. Buck 112, good evening to Rome, Georgia. James Singer, welcome to the fire. Ricky, hello to Georgia. Is that Risca, Florida? Risca, Georgia, excuse me, Risca, Georgia. There was an Iska, Iskaa, Iska, Florida. Reading one Risca, I want to say Iska. Used to be in Iska, Florida at one point. Yeah, there's a lot of Georgia in here tonight. Renee, hello there. George, hello there. Brian H., good evening. Lucas, good evening. Glad you do. Thanks for watching. Chris P., hello to Yankee, South Carolina. Patriot Preacher, Appalachian, Ohio. Awesome. Tim Pierce, thank you very much. Yeah, I wanted to do more than just say of this type, and I want to give you an idea of where the designs came from and why they worked so well for so long. Um, not not anything against the tactical knives, but the tactical knives work good as stickers and opener of packages and stuff like that, which is, let's face it, most people today don't skin or butcher game, and so they don't see a knife need for that. But on the other side of that, you look at the actual field knives of the people back in the day. They looked at knife designs with that in mind, of cutting up meat, of butchering game, of skinning, and things like that. And so those knife designs hung on for hundreds of years and are still a good choice today if you use them for a field knife. Brian H., hello to Montana. What's the temperature like in Montana, Brian? Chris, hello to Indiana. Christopher Evans, hello. Christopher Evans, I have not made bismuth shot. I have made swan shot in the past for use in living history, but I have not built or worked to do that for shotgun shot. I always just bought my shot and then used it to make other stuff. But as far as the making it out of bismuth or whatever, I really don't have good sources around here to get such stuff. I used to have a metal place down there in Dothan that was a salvage yard, and they're also a dealer in all kinds of metals and whatever. It's where you could go get coal or coke or whatever you needed for blacksmithing was you went down there. And a lot of times you could go in and say, I'm looking for lead, pure soft lead, and they would get on their little thing, and next thing you know, you'd have 50, 60, 100 pounds of lead show up. But they've kind of gone out of business down there, so my source has got kind of short. Tad, Blackie, in your opinion, who makes the best Kepart knife? William Collins. If you look at the new Tribe knife that Fuel the Fires and them just brought out, it's sort of a small Kepart. And then the Gray Man is a large Kepart. But now, to me, that'd be the best one, just because of the quality of the knife and the manufacturer. Condor makes a good one if you're more of in a budget. And I've got a okay, there it is. Come on, baby. There's mine. It's a Condor. Condor makes a good knife for the price, and I think these are like 45, 50 bucks. And but it's got all the classic features of it, the little finger thing, the shape, all of it. And it's decent steel. No, it is not some Uber whatever steel, but it is a really good steel and holds an edge well, and it cuts real well. And I made up a sheath, my own little design, to carry it in so it would lock in, based on old Rendezvous sheath that I wore for years. Even got two lanyard holes where I can hook it upside down. But those are decent ones, you know. K-Bar does make a good one too, yes. Panzer, yeah. What it is, it's actually a type of wax-based solvent they use to preserve them, so to speak. And that's the reason I recommend when you get a new cap and ball, always take it apart and clean it out. I have found gobs of stuff inside of a brand new one before, which now, be honest, I've found stuff in other things too. I bought a brand new Smith & Wesson 38 one time, and was real excited to get out and test it out and took it out of the range, and I got 2 cylinders through it, and it locked up solid. And I couldn't figure out what in the world was wrong with it. And it real gritty trigger. And when I took the side plate off of it, it looked like somebody just took it like took a spatula of grease and just packed it in. It was ridiculous. So I always take one apart and clean them up. Evening. 72 there. Cool. Guards 134. Bobby Bora, thank you very much. Sneaky Raccoon, hello to Arkansas. Oh yeah, Chris P, yeah. We're getting just tantalizing little whiffs. I mean, we've had cool weather come down here. It was 59 the other morning, and then it went up to 90. That gummit, get down in the 70s and stay there. And I'm ready for winter. I am really, really ready for winter. I'm gonna be going to events. I'm going to be camping. I'm winter. I have all the camp madness I can stand. I'm ready to get outside. I got camp fever. Number one, Big Bear. Good evening. Dead Prepper. Blackie, what's the process for joining the gathering? Just show up. The only thing that is required is you have to pay the state $5 a day to camp. That's it. If you're over 65, I think it's $3 a day. But other than that, just show up. Bring your own wood. Bring your own water. I'm buying firewood for the event. So bring your own water. If you've got a grail or something, we got the lake. You can get all the water you want. But as far as there is no water on site, like spigot with running water, and provide your own food and drink and everything, just come camp. That's it. We'll be getting down there. Let's see, the 15th is, I think it's a Wednesday, and I should be on site by lunch then, and I'll be there till Sunday. So, Miss Pam, good evening. I got you, Terry. You went for the other one, Aqualore. Okay. Preacher man, I hear we're bone dry down here. The peanuts, they're digging the peanuts a month early right now. Usually we dig peanuts in the middle of October. They're digging them right now because they're drying out in the ground. And if they don't go ahead and dig them out, they'll be lost in the ground. They'll pull the plant up and won't be no peanuts hanging on it. And the peanuts that are coming out are almost dry. My wife got some and tried to boil some, and it didn't work because we didn't soak them for 24 hours before we boiled them. And they'd be great for roasting peanuts, And there's several fields around here that's got standing corn head high. We always harvest all our corn here by mid-July or something, but it was so dry it didn't make, and so they just left it standing out there, and they'll come in and cut it and feed it to the hogs this winter. So. Oh, cool. Stacy, you got a West Virginia Trappers Convention. Cool. Yeah, South Carolina Woodsman, that's a thing. You can walk up and down most of our rivers and streams down here right now. Just there's plenty of bare bottom, which is great because you know where the fish are. They're in the holes. We used to do that in August when I was younger. I had a little canoe, and we would drop off the canoe and somebody, and then run the vehicles up, and then come back on a bicycle and chain the bicycle to a tree. And we'd get in and we'd walk up the river, towing the canoe behind us. Just hook it on a leash like clip to the back of your belt loop. Give yourself like 5-6 feet of lead. And you'd come up and there'd be a deep hole. The first thing you chunk in there is your catfish rig. Then you'd start working with a fly rod. See if the catfish rig went to singing. Change out of that, you went to a beetle spin or something, throw it around there. Then you went to something big old blade and churned it up. Nothing but bit. You get up on the boat and you'd use your feet and you'd kick across to the next shallow spot and get on and just walk on. You'd be ankle to knee deep water. And every time you found a deep hole, you knew where all the fish were going to be. And that was an easy way to fill up an ice chest in a lazy afternoon. Gray Wolf, what you want to know about the Hawkins? Oh, yeah. You're looking at the Keebler kit and would be coming online. Oh, I get you. It's not precise enough for you. I got you. Okay, Doctor of Terrible Puns, great name, by the way. Any tips on bug proofing or waterproofing jackets? I got an M65 jacket, been watching your videos. Greetings from Georgia. Yes, you can get the spray silicone, find it in the sporting goods department at Walmart. It'll be around the tents and stuff, and it's a spray sealer. You can take an M65 field jacket. The first time you do it, just lightly mist it. Don't even try to really cover it. Okay? Just lightly mist it. Hang it up and let it dry like 24 hours. Then come back and actually give it a good coating. It makes a difference. That adds like a nub to it for the grip. Okay? And usually do 2 good coats of that, and it'll bead water. And so you can waterproof it. Now, to bug proof it, that's really simple. Go down and pick you up a tub of some kind, storage tub, and you want to look in the pet section, and you're looking for red cedar shavings. Okay, it goes into a rabbit cage or something. It's red cedar. Yeah, you can also go to Lowe's or something. A lot of time in the garden center you can get red cedar. Put the jacket in there, and then put that red cedar into like a pair of pantyhose or something and put on top of it. Seal it up. Leave it in there for like a week. Whenever you're ready to go, pull your jacket out. You'll smell like cedar. No insect of any kind like cedar. And it's waterproof now. And so you won't have to worry about bugs, and you won't have to worry about that, because as you warm up that jacket wearing it for at least a good weekend of wearing, you will release more of that smell. And it smells like cedar, so it smells good. That's what we used to do. What is the standard load for a Ruger Old Army, and where do you get Ojama's bullets? Ojama's bullets only come from him. I understand he will at a great cost sell you a bullet mold, but I have just look up Kato Ojama and it will guide you to it. But Kato is where you got to get them bullets from. Standard load is about 25 to 35 grains. Somewhere in between there is a sweet spot. Mitchell, Beetle Spin Supremacy. I got you. Mitchell, I see you drink Gatorade. I like to drink water with limes, and it works well. I do it partially because of heart condition, add potassium. And so every other day, I'll drink a small Gatorade to keep my potassium level up. Plus, sweating a lot. You need to reload down here in this heat. But I make a point of we get small ones like that, and I drink one every other day just to keep the potassium in the bloodstream up. Chris, what would be your preferred muzzleloader for whitetail hunting down here in the South? Hawkins or short half stocks are really good for using in a deer blind, something like that. And 50, 54 caliber is more than sufficient to take a whitetail in the South. And so any of those work really good. Now, if you want to go long gun, I've got a Tennessee mountain rifle that I prefer, 50 caliber. They're long, and so you got to kind of bear that in mind whenever you go to doing a deer stand. You got to leave the barrel sticking out, to be able to shoot it. If you're looking at a smooth bore or something, I really like the 2-leaded Chase. It's a 62 caliber flintlock, and that's one of my favorite smooth bores to use for deer. Real White Comedy, doing well. Have you ever used one of the Thompson Center rifles, pistols that swap barrels? I have, and the handgun. I had several handguns with barrels many years ago, and was very happy with them. Justin Kuhn, I'm allergic to cedar. So what can I use? Permatin. Since you can't use the cedar, use Permatin. Also available in sporting goods. It's an anti. Take it, follow the directions. Never put it on your skin, liquid form, too toxic. But you put it onto clothing, let it dry, etc., and then reapply something you're wearing and laundering a lot, about once every 5 months or so, and it will repel bugs. Common Sense Karen, recommend the lightest, smallest 9mm for EDC. GP 100 with a less than 2-inch barrel. Ruger GP 100 is one of the smallest, lightest that I'm aware of. Preacher Man, it also works with wool jackets. It does. South Carolina Woodsman, yep, that's what I figured. Jonathan Frisbee, hello, brother. Glad you made it into your gunsmithing cave. Cool. Real Comedy, what it appears to be, he at the angle he was leading, it hit and skidded up, and that's when it went into his neck. It did not penetrate because of the vest, but it can skid off too. And that's one of the problems that law enforcement has, because they got the big old vest right here. And if it hits at an angle, it can go in through the neck opening in, or it can go in under the arm. And so any vest is never, it's not a Star Trek shield. It's got to catch it. And if it glances off of it because you're leaning back like this and it hits, it can go up. And probably that's what it did. It probably glanced and went up. Just from what I saw, that's what I believe. Any advantage or disadvantage going with 50 or 54? 50, you're going to find many more things available. If you're looking for the muzzleloading bullets that are the expanding type, copper jacket, and then the sabots and everything, 50 caliber is going to give you much more available resources to play with versus the 54. Bears in the house. Good evening, brother. Gray Wolf is correct. One of the small little Ruger semi-automatic nines are pretty light, but once you scale the gun down to a certain point, the 9mm is actually pretty potent in its recoil, but you're usually carrying it in a 1 or 2 pound handgun. So when you scale it down to handgun weight in mere ounces, it feels like you're pulling a 357 when you shoot it. Yes, I did, Craig. I heard about it just a few minutes before this, actually. Sounds like a nutcase again. Yeah, the good night sights are pretty handy. Uh, good friend of mine, he always gets the grips that's got the laser in the grips. Every gun he's got's got a laser in the grips. It's just expected around him. Andrew Kelso, which is better in Mississippi, a 22 LR rifle or a 22 LR pistol and a 6.5 inch barrel for small game hunting? If you have the skill, the pistol can do just as good, but the rifle is far more versatile, far easier to shoot than the pistol is, and far more forgiving because you're using your whole body versus just your hands. And I have hunted with both, and the rifle is usually the better choice for small game. How do you like the Uberti open top 38 special for small game kit gun? It The 38 in that size would be actually quite good, to be honest. The 38 allows you to, if you hand load, you can load it all the way down because it's a Uberti open top, so you don't have to worry about a cycling action or anything like that. And I used to load a round ball. I got a mold from Dixie Gun Works, and I would load a round ball into a 38 special case, and I put a very light charge of red powder into it, and it would leave the barrel at about 1,000 feet per second. That was perfect for rabbits and squirrels, you know. And then on the other side of that, I could take it and load up to full ballistics, just depending on what it was. And since that choice of ammunition, I didn't have to ask what it was. When I opened up a box and I looked at it, if I had forgotten to mark it, the round ball was obviously those light small game loads. The lead bullet that was such and such was my general purpose load, and the jacketed hollow points was the heavy hunting or defense load, just by looking at it. I had the open top in 44 Colt, which is a shortened version of a 44 special case. And when they had first come out back in the 90s, and they weren't sure, so they had picked a cartridge that was not commonly available, 44 Colt, and you could not chamber 44 special in it. You had to take a special case and cut it down a little bit shorter. And I had probably 200 rounds of brass for it. I had modified a set of dies so I could shoot it, and I really enjoyed that gun. I had a lot of fun with that gun. Andrew, that's it. Being in such thick down here, yeah, the pistol is easier to maneuver, but at the same time, the rifle, you can lean up against a tree and get more brace than trying to do your hands and lean up against a tree. Again, if you're adequate with it, go for it. Here's an old redneck thing to try. You know those Nico wafers are about the size of a quarter, and it's a candy, right? We used to take those and we'd take clear packing tape and stick like 8 or 9 of them on it, and then stick it up on a box. If you can take that pistol and reliably bust those Nico wafers at whatever range you're wanting to talk about, yeah, go squirrel hunt. You'll be great, because that's about the size of the head on a squirrel. And so if you're going for headshots, you got to do a small target and get good at it. I have small game hunted with a 51 Navy. I have small game hunted with a Spiller and Burr. I have small game hunted with a Colt Woodsman, a Ruger Mark II, a what you now call the Heritage Rough Rider pistol, which we used to call it a Buffalo Scout back in the 70s. Same design. Ruger Single Six, and a greatly downloaded King Cobra in 357, and a couple of Smith & Wessons in 38 or 357 and 22. So I have, if I wanted the challenge, I carried the pistol. If we were going camping and I just brought the pistol with me, then we heard squirrels barking and we wanted meat for the pot, then I would take a shot, get up there and see if I could find a good shot. But you always pass up anything if it's not money. Don't pull the trigger, because if you just nick him, he's gone. He'll be in a hollow somewhere and you can't get him down. So make sure you're gonna make a good solid hit every time you do it. And rifles were just, especially whenever you've got all the leaves are still on the trees, a lot easier to use a rifle than it is to use a handgun. Andrew, glad to help. Yep, I remember that 2020. A lot of places used to do that with animal crackers. We used to do charcoal shoots. You'd run a line between two poles, and you would take a piece of bank line or old white cord, and you'd put a loop on either end. Okay, you went up to the line and you passed the line through one of the loops to form a lark's head, and then on the other end you took the loop and just passed it back over itself to form a lark's head, and you stuck a charcoal briquette in it and hung it up at 100 yards. And so the object of the game was to bust 5 charcoal briquettes at 100 yards in 10 minutes with whatever you wanted to bring to shoot. And if you hit the line, it didn't count. We didn't say drop it. We said bust it. You got to bust it. And that was a challenge we did in the old days and then there were egg shoots. We'd hang up eggs, and you had to shoot the eggs with muzzle loaders. And then there was the split the bullet. We would take a double bit axe and stick it in a stump and put 2 nails on either side and put a clay pigeon on either side of it. So you had to shoot the edge of the axe so it would split the bullet in half and break both clay pigeons. Which is a good challenge, but I tell you what, we started out with over a 1/2 inch wide bullet. So, it didn't take much of a nick to hit both sides. Yeah, oh man, the egg shoots. Nobody would do that today, but it was a raw egg shoot. And so you had 5 eggs. Each egg counted for 20 points. And they were at 25 yards. If you busted the egg, great. If you missed the egg, you could still get the points, but you had to eat the egg raw. And that was called an egg shoot. Now today nobody do it because of salmonella in the eggs. It wasn't back in them days. We'd hang up eggs and keep them refrigerated. We wouldn't make you eat the one down on the range. We just pull one out of the ice chest. You had to crack it and eat it raw, which what was a big deal, eating raw egg. I remember when Rocky came out and it showed Sylvester Stallone cracking eggs into the thing and drinking them. Oh, everybody turned inside out and green at that. But wasn't that big a deal. Yeah, South Carolina, I hear you. The Powerline 1100s were decent for small game, actually, but you can get a lighter rifle with more power today, really. And I tell you, we'll go to sideways, a 22 caliber air rifle. You can buy 500 rounds for like $8. Okay. And the 22 caliber air rifles that we used to sell at Walmart, were the ball was leaving the barrel at 950 feet per second. That's greater than a 22 short, which leaves the barrel in the 700s. So it's not far right behind standard 22 long rifle, which was 1,000 feet. And so out to 25 yards, it was no different between that air rifle and a regular 22 as far as hunting small game. But like I said, you could buy 500 rounds in a 10 for $7. So hey, Tad, Blackie, the Rough Rider Granddaddy Barlow have the dents like the old Granddaddy Barlow. That's a saber. I swear I don't stage this up front. That's a Rough Rider Granddaddy Barlow. Right there. And this is a Rough Rider Granddaddy Barlow with ram's horn handle on it. And then this is a case three X case 3X with just smooth on it. And really, when you compare it and then you look at the Rough Rider, they're the same size, the same everything, and even got that humps the same on both of them. But I bet that case is worth quite a bit more. I found Rough Rider knives. I've told the story before, but there was a friend of mine that he collects case knives. He does not bat an eye dropping several $100s for a rare or vintage or whatever kind of case knife. And when you go into his den, he's got an entire wall that's nothing but knife display, little cubicle, little things to stack up the knives in. And I'd gone over there to take something to him, and he said, "Let me show you something." And he pulled out and he handed me this. I think it was a 2-blade trapper, and it was actual bone handle. And I looked at it, and he said, "It's actual brass. It's actual, such and such. It's actual bone." I said, "Oh, okay. So take a guess how much that knife cost." Well, knowing him, I said, "Probably a couple $100s." He said, "That was like $21 to my door." I said, "Is it a piece of junk?" He said, "No, I'm amazed how good that blade is. And it's, a Rough Rider." And he said, "I'm collecting them before people figure out how good they are because the price has got to go up." And so he went to collecting Rough Riders, and that's how I found them several years ago. And I did videos about talking about them. They are a good knife for the price. Yeah, Jerry Davis drinking 2 eggs and milk. I've done that. Robert Kearney, hello to Georgetown, Ohio. Thanks for waving. Yeah, the uh, William, the Rough Riders out of Smoky Mountain Knife Works, they give you a lot of choices, and I'm real impressed by it, to be honest, about those knives. Andrew, now of course I'm a little bit dated, but whenever I was working for Walmart, we had a 22 air rifle. The one I was talking about, that was 950 feet per second. I want to say it was like $132 for it, but it held up well, and it came with a scope and all on it. So, and I had quite a few people buy them and come back and say that, yeah, it would drop rabbits and squirrels no problem. Oh, yes, I'd be glad to. The cedar uh, shavings and things, go look in the pet department where they got the bedding stuff, and you'll find a lot of stuff that says pine or something like that. But there'll be one that says red cedar, and it's just shavings of a red cedar tree. Okay, put that into something like pantyhose or a lady's hose, and make a sachet out of it. Something like that. Put that in a tub with whatever kind of outdoor clothing you want to try to help insect repel, and it will imbue that smell to them. Thank you very much, Gregory. It will imbue that smell in it and therefore help repel. Now, another little trick you can do is take one of those socks made out of that stuff, hang it on the inside of your air conditioner intake, where you unscrew and open up and pull the filter out. Okay, put it into pantyhose, make you a sachet about something like the size of a football, about that long. Leave a long piece of pantyhose or a string or something, and hang it inside where that, lean the door open and it's wide open in there, inside there, and just screw the knob back to pinch it so it doesn't fall in. Your whole house will start smelling like cedar, and you won't have bugs, flies, and stuff coming in because they don't like the smell. All insects hate the smell, and so therefore they'll stay out, and you'll help keep bugs and gnats and stuff out of your house. Okay, let me catch back up. Carlos, hello. Panzer, I hear you. Yeah, we used to make it as well. Okay, let's see. And let's see, Gregory, thank you very much. Silver Wolf from New Mexico. Awesome. Yeah, guardsmen, you can get air rifles that are equal of modern power. There used to be a guy up here in Birmingham, Alabama, that it looked like an AR platform, but the buttstock was actually a compressed air tank. And it would take a 50 caliber lead ball and just pancake it against the steel plate at 50 yards. He hunted buffalo, deer, hog, big game with that air rifle, and it would do it. Now, of course, that was a $2,500 air rifle, but yeah, air guns can be as powerful as modern guns depending on. Yeah, Chris P., I have two Rossi Model 92s, and one's in 45 Colt and one's in 387. I really like them. Ralph, hello there. 117 Rebel, good evening. Yeah, Gregory, that's it. We were hunting. I was taught to hunt for meat, so head was what you want to do. You wanted to be as humane as possible, so you shot the small game or whatever in the head and turned them off, so they were not suffering, and you got the meat, and you didn't destroy any of the edible meat. So, and it's over, So we were taught headshots. Yes, Gray Wolf. That was the reason they had old cedar chests and stuff like that, because bugs, roaches or whatever, or moths or whatever, would get in and eat your blankets and stuff. And so they used cedar chests. We did a thing where if you have to store stuff outside because you simply do not have the capacity in your home, and you got to store something out in the garage, here's something you can do. You get the steel trash can. Don't use plastic, get steel. Okay, you put your whatever in the can. About that far from the top is where you stop. Now you put you a piece of tight fitting cardboard that you can just push in place, and then fill from there up with cedar, those cedar shavings like I was talking about. Fill it up so it's that deep at the top. Then in the seam of the lid, that locks in, put Vaseline in that seam real heavy. Put it up there and press it down. Click. 5 years from now, you can go back can, there ain't gonna be nothing in it. There won't be any ants. There won't be nothing, and all your clothes are gonna smell like cedar. No rodent can gnaw in because it's steel, and no bug can get in because of the cedar. About once every 2 to 3 years, change the cedar out. Other than that, you're good. And we had stored clothing and all kinds of stuff, baby clothes, stuff like that, in steel trash cans out in a barn and just stack them up, you know, and nothing would get into them because of that. Yeah, Jonathan Frisbee, yeah. Quieten them down a little bit. Yes, Lewis and Clark did have a Gobrilli, I think was the name of it, air gun with it. Right in front of the trigger guard, it had this round ball that screwed in, and you use like a bicycle pump. 800 pumps to pump it up, and it could shoot 25 times before you had to pump it back up. And they used to demonstrate that every time they'd meet new Indians. All the guys would get in their finery and come marching up with their muskets and everything, and then they'd do a demonstration with that air gun because it was a repeater. See, all of theirs were muzzle loaders, and so they would shoot 25 times, bang, reload, bang, bang, so the Indians would think that all their guns were repeaters. It was very effective. South Carolina Woodsman. Yeah, that's the reason they had cedar closets, cedar chests, stuff like that, was to keep the bugs out. Yeah, Crispy, I've heard bits of that. I have backwoods magazines going all the way back just about the beginning of them. I have over in that part over there, there is just three ring binders full of Backwoodsman magazine. And I caught the one back in for summer, I guess it was. And it said in the editorial that they would no longer be doing subscriptions and that the magazines would only be available on the like newsstand and etc. I don't know if they, I know that, and now I'm like you said, I'm getting people telling me they've shut down printing. I wonder if it's still online because they were still doing digital copy. I don't know if they're still doing that, but I like the hard copy, you know. One second. I got a whole bookshelf, and this one is the 2010s. I go all the way back to the 80s, I think 70s, and I just put them in these things. References. So I hope they hadn't gone out, but they were a great source of information for so many years. But whenever the senior Charlie died, I kind of really, to be honest, expected that they would eventually go down. Patriot Preacher, no, we don't. If we have ginseng down here, I haven't seen or looked for it. So, yes, the Giordani gun, that was the air gun Lewis and Clark and them utilized. Blaine, okay, I will try to remember Blaine. They actually did. They actually did hunt with air gun, small game stuff like that. Of course, they had their full size muskets with them, but they did use the air gun for small game hunting because it was, all you did was mold a little bit of lead pellet and shoot. It was shooting lead pellets. And so they had no problem shooting grouse or bird or whatever. I mean, chipmunks, rabbits, whatever. Sasquatch, I hope that they will stay in business in some form. It's been such a really an inspiration to me in many ways. I always looked for that magazine, and for many, many, many years, that's what I'd always ask for Christmas. Mom would go, you're impossible to buy for. What do you want for Christmas? A subscription. That was it. Yep. We think about air guns as being kind of modern, but China actually fielded a air powered air musket that could kill a man at 500 yards in the 1300s. I think like 1385. The Royal Emperor's Guard had 10 of them that they'd imported out of Europe. And they tied up prisoners at 100 yards, 200 yards, and went to see. And how far away did a man have to be where it wouldn't kill him? And 500 yards, it was 58 caliber. I had never seen a picture of one, but they had 10 of them. So it was only really about the Revolutionary War where muzzleloaders and air guns got about even in power. And then it was later with cartridges where it moved ahead, where they couldn't compete so much. Sasquatch, you got subscriptions too. The ladies in our life have a tough road to hoe here because if Blackie wants it, Blackie's got it, you know. And so, what do you get Blackie for Christmas? And I told my wife of, my blushing bride of I've been married to her 35 years, been in love with her 45 years. And I told her, just tell me what your budget is and I'll pick something. And same thing for you. And for many years, it would be get me a subscription or, well, I could use this new gun bluing kit, or I could use some new field shirts or something like that, really make up something so she got something that she was happy with, you know what I mean? But my dad was the same way. One Christmas, at Thanksgiving, actually, he told everybody, okay, everybody wants to know what I want. I want work gloves. That's what I want, work gloves. He got 82 pair of work gloves for Christmas. 82 pair. He loved it. He laughed and laughed as he kept opening it. It was all good, cheap, a whole gambit. And then he went to giving them out to friends of his that never, every time they'd get together, they'd, I forgot my gloves. Daddy had gloves to give out for the rest of the year. He drove a truck. And every time he'd like, I'd help you, but I ain't got no gloves. Whop, you can keep them. He'll grab that in. And he'd go to doing that. So he had a great time. Common sense carrying, glad to help. Okay. Let's see. Oh yeah, counting the days. Air powered. Oh yeah, there was all kinds of air powered stuff and comic books and everything else. The little cannons, carbide cannons. Remember the hover hovercraft you could buy that had a little fan in it. You could fly around. Man, there's all kinds of stuff back in them days. Yeah, Justin's right about putting them in the dryer. It's better uh, to soften it up. Um, Guardsman 134, because I suck at names. I'm just going to say Guardsman 134. The 45 long Colt conversion for a 58 would be a good thing to be able to then use standard black powder or just cowboy action pressure 45 Colt. It will be very nice. Oh yeah, that little bitty hovercraft. We used to get them and use them for dog toys. Turn them loose, the little yapping dog would lose their mind. That thing buzzing around, they'd bump into it and it'd take off. My daddy had a Chihuahua named Honey, and I brought one over and I put it down in the middle of the linoleum floor of the kitchen and turned it on. I went whoom, like that, and it started moving. Honey lost it. I mean, she can't run on that linoleum. Her little claws are just doing like that, barking, trying to get to it, and couldn't catch it because she's sliding in the walls and everything else. And it's going around the walls and everything. And oh, Honey had a time chasing that thing. Yeah, Jonathan, that was one of the old things. Remember, they told us in what was it, Popular Mechanics or whatever, is how to take a vacuum cleaner and turn it into a UFO for Halloween or something like that. I remember the one that you made a witch or a ghost and put it on top, and then you took fishing line and screws and hooked it so that when you turned it on, it would go up and float kind of like that on the fishing line. You'd have a power cord going to it, of course, but it'd do like that, and you'd put it up on your roof, and you'd have a ghost sitting up on top of it, and and then you were to put, I think it was you took soup cans and you mashed them and put them into the hose so it woo, it'd make like a ghost sound or something. All them things we'd get Popular Mechanics and all kinds of stuff back when people knew how to do stuff by hand, you know. James Singer is right. Overall length is very important in the 58s when you get those cylinders. So make sure that it doesn't protrude out and would hang up. That's a very good idea to check before you take it to the range. Oh yeah, standard rifle of the Persian Giants. Yeah, I got one that would take it camping, and I'd rig it up on top of my hammock to blow down on me. It's just a little fan, is what it is. But in those days, you wasn't hardly any battery powered fans available. But that little bitty, hovercraft, man, it was a little fan's what it was. Okay, you want to put belt loops. I have the belt minus the harness. Got it. Was trying to figure out a way to sew belt loops on an M65 just to hold the belt without the harness. You're wanting them to be, doctor, you're wanting them to be attached together because you realize you can just put the weight belt on you, and click it in place without the just use the weight belt and put it on like a weight belt, and then let the pack sit against it if it's rubbing you or whatever. If you want it to be load bearing, then you got to find a way to attach the two so it'll transfer the load. But yeah, you could simply do belt loops or something like that. Chris P., have a good night. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, Gear Boy, how do you identify them? Okay. The medium Alice has the 3. Wait one. Medium Alice has the 3. Large Alice has these 3, and then up here on the higher part, there's 3 additional. So if you've got 3 big and 3 small, that's the large Alice. The small Alice only has 2 pouches on it, and they're kind of spread out a little bit more. So the small Alice is 2, the medium Alice is 3, and the large Alice is 6. I swear I don't pre-stage this for you guys, but it's easier for me to just turn over and grab it. It's right there. Okay, Blackie, can you recommend best place to get a quality, authentic Kukri knife? Yes. Gurkha House or Kukri House. Go look on Amazon. They're going to bring it up. Here's how you tell if it is the company that I'm talking about. On all of the blades made by that company, you see this hollow outline right here. This on the blade, it's a chiseled in line, okay? And then on this surrepti, you can see how it's the same thing, but you see there's a pattern inside of it. This one is what's called a farmer or worker, etc. Even though it's a Panawal champura, Panawal means full tang. You'll see like this one, the 2 rivets. Okay. If you don't see anything on the handle, it's just got this nub on the back. It's just the rat tang. Panawal means it'll have the 2 rivets. And it's thick, but it's got that hollow shape right there. All right. And then that one's got the same hollow shape. See, but it's got indications in it. All right. That's a lot fancier. The company that does this out of Nepal either goes by Gurkha House, Kukri House, or whatever. But you can always tell because I'll always have that on the blades. These are handmade in Nepal by what's called a kami, K-O-M-I. We'd call it a blacksmith or a bladesmith. And fair warning, the fancier it is, the more likely it's meant for the tourist trade, and it doesn't hold up well. So the less embellished it is, the odds are the more it's a worker, okay? If you'll go look at theirs and look for a number 2 British or an Afghan war model, I'll guarantee you those will be really good because they were issued to British military as well as Indian military for actual service. So British number 2 or Afghan war issue, either one of them would be a great one. They run you about $100, a little over, just depends on stuff. And you now, baby. All right, come on. There we go. But look at them Find them on Amazon, see one you like, and notice how thick it is. If you want one for chopping, like mine that's not fancy, that's a chopper, a champura, and it means axe, hand axe. Really thin, that fancy one I picked up is a surrupti, think machete. Okay. And that, like he's saying, William's saying, Kalesh Blades makes a good one. Okay, Peter. Blackie, I've had a hard time finding directions to your gathering. Okay. What you're looking for is Geneva State Forest Lake. Okay. Geneva State Forest is the largest state forest in the state of Alabama. It butts up against Conecuh National Forest in the bottom central of the state. It's like 20 miles, 25 miles or less from the Florida border, dead center in the bottom. Okay. And you'll see Conecuh National Forest. And it literally, you cross the road and it becomes Geneva. Geneva's 7,000 acres and Conecuh is 70,000. So it's that one. And there's the lake. What I tell people is if you'll put in your GPS and come to Opp, Alabama, OPP. Opportunity. They shortened it down over the years to Opp. When you get, and that's what it is on the sign, when you get there, it's OPP. So when you get to Opp, Alabama, then punch in Geneva State Forest Lake, and it'll guide you straight into it. I've had so many of my people that have come to camp with me, I've had them put it into their GPS and pin it and etc. that now GPS recognizes it and it'll guide you straight in once you get to Opp. Okay, so put in Opp, Alabama on your GPS, and then when you get to Opp, put in, you're only like 8 or 10 miles, maybe 12 miles from the lake when you get to Opp. Harold, thanks for dropping in. Let's see, Jerry Davis, you got a gun your grandfather gave you. It's a Stevens and has 44 shots stamped on 36-inch barrel. It made about 1,900 board to fit a 410 shell. It is now, yeah. Prior to somewhere in the early 1900s, there were two distinct 44s. There was the 44-40 shot shell. And then there was the 41 cane, which was meant for walking cane shotgun. Somewhere in the early 1900s, those two kind of blended together and became the 410. And so the old 2.5 inch 410, the modern 2.5 inch 410 should fit it and fire, but there's somewhere along in there's when they created the 410 from those two cartridges came into one and became that, replaced both of them. So yeah, and usually those barrels, those little Stevens, were called garden guns, and they were smooth bore, and the common name was garden gun for it. Blackie, you know if they make a thinner belt knife size? Yes, they do in the Kukri, and it's called, if you look on Amazon, what you're looking for is jungle Kukri or officers Kukri. But if you say officers, they're going to take you to the fancy ones that are probably not real. They're just for show. Okay. But that is officially, and it's, you can see it's also got that design right there along the top of the blade. This was labeled as a jungle Kukri, and it's considered an officer size Kukri, but what it is, it's belt knife Kukri is what it is. And when I did my year of the Kukri, this was my belt knife that I used for all those tasks. If it could be done with a kukri, I had to do it with a kukri. And so I had a collection of about 8 kukris. And so I had the one I already showed you, my big heavy one. That was my standard chopper to do the job of a hatchet or something like that. This I wore on my belt and did the job of a field knife, skin with it, clean game with it, clean fish with it, all the above. And then I had this great big one, about this big, that was very thick, two-handed. That was an axe, and I could do anything with that I could do with an axe. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Gulf Coast Pine Belt, Black Eye, blazing a fishing trail tomorrow through thick cover. Any suggestions for finding a good avenue when the trail to get back in and out? An old trick that we used to do is to intentionally take your foot and scuff your way along, kind of drag a foot, kick up pine straw, whatever, all along. So you got a visual trail on the ground to where you went. And when you bust out on the edge of the lake or whatever, put you some sort of marker up there right then. A great thing to get is plain old pipe cleaners and colors. Go to Walmart and they got them in pink, they got them in white, they got them in all kinds of colors, and just hook it to a limb, you know, so that when you're coming back. Now, where did I initially get here? If it's not an obvious place where it's just in the cover, because once I step back in, I can see where I scrubbed my foot. And as I walk along, about every 3 or 4 steps, I'd take my foot and I'd kick or something and tear up the pine straw or tear up the brush or something. And so I know I'm following that crumb trail bit back in and out. That's an old trick we used to use that worked really well. Okay, let me catch back up. Okay, Blackie just picked up another M700 and 223. Redfield and hey, nice. Wade, good job. Yes, GK and Company, Kukri House, that's it. It used to be Gurkha Company, and they changed names, and it was Kukri House. It was the same company under multiple houses names is what it was. Same factory that was making them. Any tomahawk lovers, do you prefer a hammer pole or a spike? I love the hammers. I prefer the hammer. What I've got hanging up right in there is one of the cold steel uh, tomahawks with the hammer spike on it. Much better for camp than the spike. The spike is great. Now, if you're in cold country, you're going to be on ice. The spike is better. And that's a self-arrestor. So if you start sliding down, you can hick it into the wall and drag, you know. But as far as a camp tool in the eastern woodlands where you're not going to be sliding down, you know, going through mountains and a lot of ice flows and stuff, the hammer pole is a better choice, in my opinion. Jerry Davis, glad to help. Andrew, what campground? It's just there at the lake. Just put in Geneva State Forest Lake when you get real close, and it will guide you into the camping area where we're at. You don't have to reserve or anything like that. They're just a series of picnic tables along the side of the lake and a bunch of trash cans spaced out. Then we got the field up here above us. Plenty of room for people just to, you can hammock camp, you can tent camp, you can car camp, you can RV camp. You're set to go. Yeah, the you know, Wade, the thing, the synthetic stocks do have a place. They don't, if, especially some places get a lot of variety of temperature, hot, cold, rainy, etc. The plastics work. Sold to me, but I do see where the modern synthetic stocks do have a place, but it just doesn't have any soul for me. You know what I mean? Yeah, surveyor's tape can work well to guide you in and out as well. Another thing we used to do is go look at the aisle and get spools of really bright colored, like orange thread, and just run a pencil through it and tie one in and just start walking. There's a lot of feet. There's several hundred yards on a spool of thread. And coming back out, you heard the term following a thread. That's what a lot of us old woodsmen would do, because it was so dirt cheap and it'd be a bright color we could follow. And when we'd come back, we wouldn't even spool it back up. We'd just hook our hand on it and just follow along with it and come back out. Danny, doing well. Thank you. Mark, yeah, I've seen that as well. The Nepalese Gurkha battalions will behead a bullock once a year, and if they behead it cleanly in one hit, then the unit will have good fortune for the year. But if they screw it up, then it's bad luck for the year. And that guy practices a lot to be able to decapitate that bullock in one hit. The thin surrepti, the fancy one I held up, that one was it come from the Gurkha battalion. There was a New Zealand officer or New Zealander military that served with the Gurkhas, and that was his. And when he passed away, his son sent me that one. He said that his father had asked him to send it to me because he had really enjoyed my videos. And so he said, when I'm gone, give it to Blackie. And so I got contacted by his son, and he shipped me that one from New Zealand. So that one actually served in the Gurkha battalion. So under the Commonwealth, I guess you want to call it. L, okay. Why are you smiling? Chris, good. I hope you do get it zeroed in for deer season. Chris, what I tell people is, they say, don't get hung up on a bunch of numbers and everything else. I've seen some wonderful target rifles and guys that were fantastic target shooters, and they couldn't hit a deer to save their life. Take you a paper plate, just a plain old paper plate. Put it on a target or put it on a cardboard box. If you can put all shots onto that paper plate at whatever range you're wanting to be at, you can take any deer, anything walking on four legs, because that's the size of the vitals of a deer, is a paper plate. If you can keep all shots on it, you're going to drop them. We used to call it minute of deer. And so then we'd put a time element in it. We'd take a kitchen timer and we'd set it to 2 minutes and put 5 shots on that paper plate. You're amazed how hard it is to do it in time, But the deer ain't going to stand there forever. So you got to learn to shoot quickly. We ain't got time to start turning knobs and everything. Just got to put it on it and go. And what us rednecks did, because we're down here in thick cover, and most shots are going to be 100 yards or less, usually a lot less. And so we would sight our guns in for 100 yards. And then we would look at the deer. If you saw the eye and you could see the eye clearly, put it on the chest, pull the trigger. If you couldn't see the eye clearly, go up in power till the eye cleared up, put it on the chest, pull it, and trigger. Because the point of aim up and down would only drift up or down about 4 inches between 25 yards and 125 yards. Well, that's still on a paper plate. You're still in the vitals. See? And so it was quick. Get it on target, get the shot. William, whenever I taught my good friend Dan Lutz about kukris, And he just didn't see the value of it, the worth of it. And he got him a kukri, a real one like mine. And I'd gone up to visit, and I sharpened it for him. And he was also a trapper, and he was going to be butchering up a deer. And we'd gone out there to his barn. Of course, it's winter, it's cold, and he's got a deer hanging up there. And this deer was frozen, okay, because he's up in Xenia, Ohio. And I think the high that day was 19 degrees, okay. He walked up to it and was talking about how he was going to clean it and all like that. And I said, well, are you going to do anything with the legs from like the knee down? He said, no. I said, then take the kukri and take the leg off. And he said, it's frozen, Blackie. You know, it'd be like trying to chop, rebar. I said, take the leg off. And so, Dan took it and did like I told him, did a backward swipe that way at it. And it went, sheek. And that leg fell and hit the floor like that. It was as thick as my forearm right there, because them deer up there are big. And it went sheek right through it, and it hit the ground. Dan turned white. It scared him so bad. He said, I figured he's just going to hit and knock the leg because it's free hanging. And he took that leg off that deer just like that. He said, you can take a man's arm off. Yes, you can take a man's head off. There is no minor wound from a good kukri. And he did a video where he was processing a coon, and he just, took the feet off, took the head off, like top, and like bam, it was just like top. That was it. And he said, why haven't I been using one of these all along? Diane, good evening. Good to see you. Good job, Chris. Good job. James Singer, good night. Oh, you saying good night, Justin. I didn't see you getting out. Mitchell, have a good night. Wade, okay, you got to understand this 1870s, 1880s, their shotgun shells were 2.5 inches. Smokeless shells are 2 3/4. It was made with the idea of you couldn't chamber it, but old guns like that will chamber it. And it's not, what it is it's called the lead. It's where it goes in, and then there's a section there for it to open up. See? Well, you can put a 2 3/4 in where a 2.5 would go. You can put a 3.5-inch shell into a 3-inch chamber. It's when it goes to open up when you get the problems. So I would be really careful with that. Now, there's a little trick you can do. Go look at, God, it's the gun adapters out of Montana. He gets on here a lot of time and talks to us. Same one, Dave Canterbury. Y'all know who I'm talking about, but it's the chamber adapters that looks like a stainless steel shotgun shell, and it's a 12 gauge, but a 20 gauge goes inside of it. Okay, you can put a 20 gauge shell into that and then put it in your 12 gauge, and that's going to hold your chamber pressure better because that steel can hold the pressure by itself, so it's not stressing your gun as much. I had a double barrel rabbit ear Damascus barrel, double barrel 10 gauge, and I got a couple of inserts to put into it to shoot 12 gauge in it for that reason. Those inserts were full length of the barrel, and you slid them in, and then up where it looked like you're screwing in a choke, it screwed in the front end and anchored it front to back. And so I just downsized it to a modern 12 gauge because those two tubes could shoot by themselves. The barrel is just merely around it then, and was able to shoot that double barrel 10 gauge rabbit ear. I let another family member have it. I need to go borrow it back and do a video on it sometime. But if he's still got it, he should have it. He better have it. But it's a way to do it. Wait, yeah, they're still shooting them in Cowboy Action, the local club. once a month has a match. They've been trying to get me to come out there and take part in it. Charles Martin, you're right on time. Everything's going good. You're familiar with lead. Good. Short lane, correct. Short lane arms. That's who it is. Short lane arms. You get one of those and drop into it, and make sure you're not going to lose a chamber on it, because that's where the big pressure is. Jim Stewart, glad you're enjoying the Red Hawk. Some do, Wade, but not as many as you think, because black powder is more expensive than smokeless nowadays. That's a real shock. And the fact that it clouds up the range when you shoot. And so, you got to deal with that. You can't see through it like you can with smokeless for fast shooting. Farrell, what lightweight tarp do you like now for ground camping? Is it still the One Wind? Yes, the One Wind is a good choice for that. Especially if you get the one that's meant to go over the hammock, and it's the one that you can close the doors. I've demonstrated that. That makes a good ground pounder tent, because you can just run a ridge line between two trees and set it up like a pump tent. The two doors will do in, and it's like, I think it's like 7 feet sideways and 12 feet long, closed up. So you got plenty of room in there. And you can put one side of the ground and open the other side up and put poles on it to have like a lean-to, like a Walleen, and it's light, weighs nothing. So it might be something to go with. Lewis Ward, glad you made it. Yes, it is. 18 inches overall. That's big enough for a chopper. Gray Wolf, yeah, where you're at, there's a difference. But down here, you can pick up a pound of smokeless powder for around $30, and it's like 45 or $50 when you can find black. So, B Husky, hello to Alaska. Thanks for dropping in. Guardsman, it's okay. You just got to throw a question out there, and sometimes it flies and sometimes it doesn't. Yeah, Wade, that's the reason I shot it. It'd been a family hand me down to me, and 10 gauge shells got pricey, and I just wanted it for nostalgia more than anything else. And the family member that has it, that's the reason they want it. It's in their family's history too, and so they were going to be passing it down the line through them. Charles, so Blakey, did you get tired of trying to upload the third part of that butt pack series? I was running out of time because it was about to storm on me, and I was just showing to set it up. What my camp looked like with the mosquito net under it and everything else. So yeah, I was rushed, but I did get to cover what I wanted of how it would fit and go together. And I have got so many irons in the fire of different video topics I need to get back to. And can you do this? Can you do that? You talked about doing this. And I am constantly playing catch up, trying to get back to where I want to be. But I will, now that it cools off, we had a couple of weeks here, it was fairly nice. Now it's warming back up. But once it cools off, I'm going to be a lot more in the woods. And there's going to be a lot more videos coming, on the ground pounder and etc. So I've got, I did a video talking about using uh, the medium Alice. I did a video talking about using the large Alice. Now somebody wanted me to do a video about the medium Alice without a frame on it, just doing a soft pack. That's what that is. That video comes out tomorrow for Ground Pounder, is the medium Alice without a frame in it, how to load it, how I run it, and etc. So that'll be coming out then. There's all kinds of stuff. And we got to get back to the cooking series. Now it's going to be cool enough to be able to get out and cook. I still got to do Dutch ovens eventually. Oh God, I need to go back and redo all the hammocks. Just bring everything up to date. And then the pocket knife guys want me to dive into the pocket knives. And can you talk about the muzzleloading rifles and shotguns now? And just not enough hours in the day. Farrell, I got you. They put it on the back end. Here where I'm at, they have like a 3 or 4 day muzzleloading season, but it's right between archery and live gun. So, but you can hunt with it during live gun the whole time. Cartridge firearms, I should say. So, Lewis, the last thing I heard was that they were going back into production. But the problem with doing the black powder is, one, us that want to use it for percussion guns, muzzleloaders, are really the minority. The vast majority of GoX and all that production goes to the military. It's still used in naval shells, naval gun shells, and etc. And so for that reason, they're kind of backlogged. And I understand that Powder Valley had a fire recently and they lost their warehouse. And that was a big source of my smokeless powder. So the black powder, they're going to take them at least to 2026 to catch up on black powder production to what the military wants for their industry. And hopefully by this time next year, we'll start seeing black powder show back up at a reasonable price. They need to get it down like under $20 a pound, because it's becoming where my percussions cost more than my cartridge firearms to shoot. And you say it was the other way around. Used to, you could shoot a lot of black powder for dirt cheap. A pound of powder was $14 and 100 caps was $1.10. Now it's $10 a 10. So it's just ridiculous. Oh, Charles, I understand. I don't feel pushed. I understand. It's the way it is. I mean, there are so many topics. Harold, Blackie, you need to add a sustainment pouch to your line. You could name it the Raven. Actually, I do have a sustainment pouch, and it's called the Sparrowhawk. That's what goes on the side of the pack. 2 Sparrowhawks, one on either side. Those are sustainment pouches. Oh yeah, Greg. I mean, the price of primers and everything else has just gone ridiculous. Yeah, Governor 134. Here's what I tell people to do. Like I said, take a paper plate, put it on a cardboard box, put it out there however far you want to start at. Take a kitchen timer and set it to, say, 1 minute. Make a shot in 1 minute and put it on that paper plate. Reload if it's a muzzle loader. Reset to 1 minute and shoot in 1 minute and put on. You can put 5 shots on that paper plate. Back it up another, say, 20 yards and try it again. When it gets to where you're sweating blood trying to make it happen, you're running out of time, or you can't keep them on the target, you have reached your maximum effective range, whether it's 70 yards or 300. You and that gun. Now you know what your maximum range is, and you need to adjust from that. I I had a guy that come into the store, and he told me that his buddy had bore sighted his 30-06 for 500 yards. And I went, really? Yep, it's bore sighted at 500 yards. That's nice. Understand, here in this part of Alabama, we're in such thick woods, most shots are 25 yards. You're shooting across a field, and it's normally 100 yards, at most. 500 yards, you're shooting down a county road. I mean, there isn't a straight line in 500 yards in anything around here where A, you could see a deer because their masters are just blending into the gloom, and B, be able to see it to shoot it. His buddy told me 3 or 4 days later that they saw a deer at about 75 yards, and he shot at it, and the bullet went about that high over his back. It nicked a tree. That's how they knew how high up it was. Well, yeah, if it's sighted for 500 yards, you're like 24 inches high at 100 yards. It's ridiculous. So, well, guys, that's been an hour and 45 minutes. Guys, I do appreciate y'all coming and talking to me. I really, really do. I will go back and reread all of this tomorrow, and I greatly appreciate everything y'all do. I really look forward to these. Now, I'm planning on being here next Thursday night, so if there's anything comes up, I'll let y'all know. But till next time, I wish y'all safe journeys. Have a great weekend. God bless, and take care, guys. I'll see you next week. Good night.